It is finally here, the moment people have been asking for quite some time, wireless charging on a Garmin watch. And this new Vivomove Trend goes ahead and adds that, but also keeps regular charging as well. So whether or not you love or hate wireless charging, you've at least got the option, and I'll dive into that a little bit more later on in the review. First up, what is new in this watch? Well, this watch adds a bunch of new features over the existing Vivomove Sport as well as the Vivomove 3. Now these watches are a little bit different. As you can see here, it doesn't look like there's actually a display at all. But in reality, once I go ahead and wake it up, you can see the display there. Keep in mind the studio lights are kind of doing funky things here. If I put it just like that, there we go. This is what I actually see when there's not like weird reflections on it. And you can see all the displays on it. Now, just a couple quick items that are brand new to this watch compared to existing watches. Number one, it adds, of course, the wireless charging that we'll talk about. Number two, it adds Garmin contactless payments or Garmin Pay, so you can load a credit card onto this and then simply tap somewhere to go ahead and pay for something. Number three, it adds a barometric altimeter, and that matters because you get floor counting. So stair counting, if you go upstairs, you can now go ahead and track that as well. It adds sleep score onto the watch itself, though existing Vivomove Sport folks will get that in a firmware update as well. And you can, of course, see that on Garmin Connect too. It changes the display type underneath the covers there from OLED to LCD. That's the same display type they put on the Garmin Lily, that tiny little watch there. And that's notable because it's way brighter than it used to be in the past. I've always had problems with kind of these stylish Vivo watches from Garmin because you couldn't actually see the darn display outside. But now it's much, much better. I can easily see it outside in sun and clouds. It doesn't matter, indoors, outdoors. Really happy with that. They've also increased the touchable surface of the touchscreen, if that makes sense. It's down basically edge to edge. In the past, it was a much smaller chunk there. And then with that, they've increased the display resolution on the screen right here. And they've gone ahead and they've changed the bezel as well from a polymer to a stainless steel kind of outer edge, just making it a little bit fancier than the Vivomove Sport. Of course, they've increased the price compared to the Vivomove Sport as well. But keep in mind, this also sort of competed with Garmin's higher end, like Vivomove Style and Luxe range. So it's not quite a one-to-one comparison. In any case, the new price is $269 or $299, depending on which style exactly you choose, versus the Vivomove Sport in the past was $179. Oh, and the case size here is a 40mm case size. Hey, so quick note from future me in the wireless charging section of this video. If you are finding this video interesting and useful, whacking that like button really does help out the video and the channel quite a bit. And that way, by the time you get to this circus act section of the video, you'll be like ready to rock and roll. Now, for this type of watch, I think it's probably just best to walk through the features on the watch. Note that you might see me miss a few touches or not respond to touches. That's because it's on the table. When it's on my wrist, I'm at like 100% touch accuracy. So as you can see right there, it's not currently on. The display is not on. Normally when you raise your wrist up like this, it'll turn on instantly, or you can always just simply tap it to go ahead and turn it on. You can see here, this is my watch face. You can customize this a couple different ways if you want to, but I can also then swipe to see different widgets. This is the first one, the step widget, and then each one of these widgets I can tap into for more details. So there's my steps over the past week, and I can go and swipe to the right. Oops, there we go. Swipe to the right to get back, and then swipe down through the widget menu. You can see there's one of those missed swipes. Really just a lot better if it's like on my wrist. There's stair counting, there's intensity minutes, and again, all these I can tap into and see where I am intensity minutes on the weekly graph. Of course, this is in the morning on Wednesday, so it's showing 0 right now versus the previous 2 days were quite a bit higher. This is the heart rate page. I can tap into it and see heart rate over the past 4 hours. I had the watch off for a little bit right there, so there's little gaps in that. Swipe down as well. Here is my respiration rate. Again, I can tap into that and see that over the past 7 days. And then just kind of continuing through the widgets, this includes music control. There is no music on this watch though, so just keep that in mind, but just control music on your phone without any problems. And here's the weather. So this is Celsius, and if I tap into that, I can see weather for the next few hours, and I can see it for the next few days as well. And one thing you're probably noticing as I do this, the hands right there, these analog hands are moving out of the way. So watch this. If I go right now, they're across the basically 9 and 3. But if I find one of the gauge pages up here, you can see 4 cups out of the 12 it wants for the day. Then they now go to this upper position right there. It's the same true. There's my stress level. So it uses the hands in all sorts of different places, and it's trying to get out of the way of the text as best as possible. So continuing on down to kind of one of the last things here, there's my sleep score for last night. You can see 5 hours, 50 minutes of sleep and 74 for my score. And there's the different sleep phases. I don't tend to focus too much on sleep phases. The way to validate those isn't all that accurate to begin with. About 80% is kind of the peak critique you're going to get for ways that you can validate sleep stages. I do look at, though, what time I fell asleep and what time I woke up, and found this to be very, very accurate in that realm. So that's kind of what I'm mostly focused on. Now, what's notable here is if I hold down in the middle, you'll see a menu. And this is a menu to start a workout up there, to go ahead and access some of the heart stats. For example, pulse ox uses the optical heart rate sensor on the back. You can see the green lights right there. That's for regular heart rates. But if it goes into a red light mode, and it's very, very difficult to capture that because this particular feature is super sensitive to movement and it really doesn't want you moving at all. So if I try to flip it over really quick, you might be able to see the red lights. There we go, a little bit of red light there. It's going to turn off, boom, as soon as it basically fails. See too much movement, try again. So swiping back here, though, I will not try again. That's your blood oxygenation level, and that's something that you can track at night automatically or manually during the day. I wouldn't bother to do that. It's a huge battery burn. It didn't work that well for me. Even last night, for example, it only tracked just like a 30 or 40 minute section of the entire night. And even within that, it wasn't all that accurate, showing about 90%. Additionally, any smartphone notifications that you have on your phone will show up here, depending on, again, how you've configured them on your phone. For Android users, you can actually respond back to text messages. For iPhone users, Apple users, you cannot, because Apple does not permit that, only for the Apple Watch, but not for third-party watches. But you can go ahead and do that from the notifications window. And of course, no matter which phone platform you're on, you can see the details of that text message or that notification by just simply tapping it. Some of them are very short like this. Others might be a little bit longer, like that one right there. But again, these are all shown on here, and you can kind of swipe through them as you see fit. Tap this to wake this back up again. Hold on to get in the menus. Here is your timers. So timer, stopwatch. You can see set alarms. Swipe to the right, and then I can go into settings. I can align the hands. If for some reason these hands get out of alignment, you can actually realign them, basically recalibrate it if you want to. Otherwise, kind of some of the normal settings that you would see around display, alert vibrations. It does have a vibration motor in it, but no audible alerts. So swiping back again here, I'm going to go swipe to the right this time, and this is where I can see my battery status right there, as well as my date up at the top right there, and then I can go ahead and find my phone using this option right there to basically ring my phone, or I can set Do Not Disturb up here, or I can go ahead and pay for something using Garmin Pay right there. I will go ahead now and add my PIN number here, and then you can see here's my credit card, and I just simply tap into it. Again, keep in mind, this does depend on your particular bank and Garmin having an arrangement with that particular bank. It's not just all Visa cards or all MasterCards. You can find a huge list on Garmin's site for every country and which banks to support. It's a lot of banks, but it's not all the banks that I have either. Okay, so back to the watch face. Let's go ahead and start a workout. So again, double tap this to wake it up, hold the middle for a second, and then tap the workout option. There are 14 different sport profiles. You can see them here and here. You can load 10 at a time on the watch, and you can customize them as well. So I'm going to tap on run, and it's now going to try to find GPS using my phone. So this right here, and it basically goes ahead and leverages Bluetooth connect from the watch to the phone, and then the GPS in the phone for GPS here. There's no GPS in this watch, so it's called connected GPS. You can see that happened almost instantly, and you can see over here it shows the GPS is connected. If it had a little X over that, that'd mean it's, well, not connected. Now you can see it's ready to roll here. I just would simply double tap this to start the workout, and now it's going to show me the data pages I've configured. You can configure a couple different data pages with a handful of different data metrics per each one of those data fields. Again, they're on the screen right there, and I can swipe through this by just simply swiping up. And I had no problems doing this in the middle of a run, even a tempo run yesterday, so a pretty darn hard run. No problems like swiping through this with sweaty fingers, and it works just fine. And I can also see the display, no problems outdoors either. You can see here some still photos I took along the way. I've always had problems in the past taking pictures of some of these watches, either because of brightness or because the screen refresh rate. So from like a sports tech geek reviewer standpoint, my favorite feature of this watch is that every single one of my videos and photos came out perfectly without like weird refresh issues on the display. Things that you never see in real life, but if you have to do this as your job, this is super nice to have this all like just works. Now, once you're done with your workout, you can save it. There's no summary information displayed on the watch. It's really anticlimactic. It's just like saved and done. But you can see all that information on Garmin Connect, either the phone or the website. You can see some screenshots here of my run from yesterday. And you're gonna get way more information on Garmin Connect than you'll see on the watch itself. You basically get the same amount of information or very similar amounts of information than if you had a really expensive Garmin watch, like a $1,000 Garmin watch. Yes, those watches have a couple other like super geeky stats, but like 85% of the stats are the same, including the fact that barometric altimeter data. So what about accuracy? What about heart rate and kind of GPS, if you will, accuracy out during workouts? So starting off indoors on an indoor cycling workout here, this was like a pretty intense workout. It had just a few seconds, 15 seconds of rest in between these longer intervals. And you can see overall it's very, very similar. This is compared to an Apple Watch on the other wrist, a chest strap, and the Whoop 4.0 band on my upper arm. And you can see overall it's very, very close. It did lag a little bit, which I saw on all the optical sensors compared to that chest strap I was wearing. But otherwise, it wasn't that big of a deal in this particular workout. Next, here's yesterday's tempo run that I did outdoors. Very, very close across the board. In fact, this is the rarest scenario, in fact, I think the only scenario, that the Apple Watch Ultra I was wearing on the other wrist completely crapped itself. Like the heart rate there did what's called cadence lock, where it locked on to the cadence of my running. And you can see it was wrong the entire time, showing you that a $800 watch can be wrong some of the time as well. Now again, that is super rare, but I just kind of noted because you're probably looking at the graph like, what's going on there? As far as the Vivomove Trend, it basically matched the chest strap the entire time. A little bit lag again on some of the increases in intensity, about 5 to 10 seconds, not too bad. The one caveat though is I did see a few little bobbles here and there where basically it would spike the heart rate up about 8 beats per minute. No real obvious explanation for this. This was a very, very clean run for me. No distractions, no like changes in intensity that were meaningful, so not sure what happened there, but something that's kind of notable. Now, as far as GPS goes, it is going to use your phone. In my case, I have an iPhone 13 Pro, and so it's using that. However, each app can actually finesse the data a little bit. In fact, you see this here where I had the Garmin Connect mobile app there, effectively powering the GPS for this, but also the Whoop strap app on there and the Oura Ring app on there, all recording from that same data source, but in different ways. Now, the Oura data like just wouldn't export out. I gave up on trying to export it, but the Whoop data is in this image here, and you can see that also compared to the Garmin Epix watch as well as a Apple Watch Ultra. And you can see at a high level they are very, very similar. But if you look closely, you do see some very, very minor differences, even between those apps using that same phone source data. In the case of Whoop and Garmin, on this little corner right there, is a tiny bit different. Later on, actually, the phone did a better job, despite being in my running shorts pocket, than both of the standalone watches. The Apple Watch like way cut the corner here. The Epix also cut it, but not as badly as the Apple Watch, but the phone like correctly nailed that. Albeit a few moments later, the phone-based ones just slightly like missed some of these sharp turns that I did around some construction stuff, versus the dedicated watches did correctly nail that. For most people though, the accuracy is good enough on this. It's not the latest optical sensor from Garmin. It doesn't support ECG either, something that Garmin just rolled out last week, but it does support wireless charging. So let's talk about that very briefly here. So Garmin supports the Qi wireless charging standard, and that's basically the standard for kind of all things. For example, this is a standard wireless charging mat. I can go put my phone on there in a couple seconds. You'll see it'll initialize. There we go. Now it's charging. And the same is true for the Vivomove Trend. I put that on there, put it in the middle, in a couple seconds, boom, it's charging. It's as easy as that. Now in my testing, it's not charging super fast. And I asked Garmin, and basically they're saying under 2 hours is kind of their notable there. So I did a quick test where I charged for 15 minutes just to kind of see what the charging rate was. In that case, I did about 11% in that 15 minutes. So you're looking at like 0.75% per minute, not super fast. It is the same speed as the wired charging, which is this here. It does include a USB-C wired charger, which is kind of cool. It is a clip-on style. Garmin has basically two styles of chargers. Their standard one that they use for almost everything, and the clip-on charger for a handful of watches like this. And so you can see clip-on charger goes in the back there, and then USB-C on the other side. Now, when it gets into compatibility, that's where you find the wild, wild west of Qi chargers. And again, these aren't like universal standard what virtually every company is using out there, but there are some caveats. So this is the random one I bought on Amazon, about 12 bucks or so. I'll link all these down below. And then I asked Garmin for a couple recommendations. These are not official recommendations. These are like, these should work pretty well. This one here called from Tozo. Again, put it in there, charge it, and you'll see when I put this on, usually lights will change, and this is true as well on this particular charger. And then I've got this Anchor battery pack. Again, the same thing here. Pop it on, turn on the button. There we go. In a couple seconds, it should light up. Come on. Put it right in the middle. There we go. And sometimes it's finicky on some chargers like this battery pack, but I've had no real problems in the other ones. As long as it's vaguely in the middle, it works just fine. And in fact, even the Samsung Watch charger works too. So watch this. There we go. boom, charging, easy peasy. But there have been some caveats. So unplug this right here. I've got this Anker charger. This is one that was recommended, including the cable that came with it and all this kind of stuff. And this is, again, I trust Anker as a brand. I use it for tons of stuff, including this battery pack right there. But this one, when I put it on there, nothing happens. You can see it blinks this little blue light a bunch of times. This charges my phone just fine, so I know that particular portion of it's working. There you go, you can see the charging up top there. But there's clearly some differences, and I don't know why this one's failing. It should actually work. The same is true as well for this moderately sketchy old thing I found in a bin that just says PowerPort Qi. I plug this in to try to charge, and nothing happens. Like it doesn't do anything. And again, this is the wild west of Qi charging. Still, it's cool to see Garmin doing this, and more importantly, I think it's cool to see the fact that they kept the wired charger. I really do appreciate that. I don't appreciate how darn slow the wired charger is or how slow their wireless charging is compared to the competitors, which are generally under an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. But hey, it's a first step here. It is interesting we see Garmin starting off on these sort of watches, but this isn't unheard of. Ultimately, the Vivomove Trend is a perfectly nice little watch. If you want that stylish watch that does not look like it's actually a smartwatch, but still has all the smarts in it, this is a great option. It's got virtually every other health and wellness feature of Garmin's other watches, but just doesn't look like a smartwatch. Anyways, hopefully you found this useful. If so, go ahead and mark that like button at the bottom there or hit subscribe for plenty more sports technology goodness. Have a good one.